All right, the plans are already being exposed.
Their Indiana Fever roster, because they had so many injuries, they really did a great job of staying engaged with their season. I can really only imagine for a player like Caitlyn, you come off your college season, epic, you go straight to your WNBA season, you finish a first teamer, you have this long off season where you probably can't wait to get back on the court.
We already know how Team USA was planning to build this thing up around Paige Bueckers being the point guard, a blasphemous
only to have like a couple of injuries, sideline or at the ins and the outs, and then eventually being completely out. That is a challenge for a player.
Caitlyn Clark officially arrives in North Carolina for Team USA camp. More importantly, we got Sue Bird talking about.
It's just a great opportunity to get their first feel, to get their first taste. But none have had a ton of USA basketball experience.
That hesitation, right? There is not someone gathering their thoughts. That is someone carefully picking words to avoid saying what everyone already knows. Sue Bird was asked directly about Caitlyn Clark's performance coming back from injury, and instead of breaking down her play, she shifted the focus to staying engaged from the sidelines. That kind of pivot always raises eyebrows. That moment matters because of what is really going on at Team USA camp right now. Caitlyn Clark just showed up in North Carolina for what is supposed to be the early build-up to her first major international run. On paper, this should be a spotlight moment. In reality, the structure around her has people quietly questioning the direction of the whole setup. Subbird, who was overseeing everything as the general manager, shared details that only added to the side-eye this situation was already getting. The message was clear. The veterans are expected to set the tone. Not just the coaches, but the experienced players.
Just a great opportunity to get their first feel, to get their first taste. And the other beautiful part about USA basketball, this is when the veterans really come alive, right? This is when they can be a huge part of setting that tone, not just the coaches. But those vets, they've been there, they know what it's like. And with the way that they act, maybe with the way that they can be vocal.
The ones who have been around, who know the system, who are supposed to show the younger group how to move, how to lead, and how to carry themselves in this environment. Now, let's slow down and look at who those veterans actually are in this camp. Paige Bueckers is there. Paige, who has not played a single WNBA game yet, is reportedly being lined up as a point guard option for Team USA. That is not rumor talk. That is what has been circulating heading into camp. And suddenly, the conversation becomes about veterans teaching young players and setting culture. Here is where it gets awkward. Caitlyn Clark just wrapped up her rookie season as a first-team All-WNBA selection. She led the league in assists at 8 per game. She set a single-season assist record with 337 total. She ran an offense that turned the Indiana Fever from a lottery team into a playoff contender. Now she walks into a Team USA environment where the messaging centers on veterans teaching youth, while Paige Bueckers is being framed as a floor general. The math on that does not sit right. The entire thing feels built to tone her down instead of letting her fully cook. And that is where this situation starts getting uncomfortable fast. This gets even more interesting once Bird explains how Stephanie White landed on this coaching staff.
What went into how you selected Kara's assistants?
Yeah, Kara Lawson, the head coach of Duke. They're terrible, by the way. How did you come to the conclusion of getting the assistants in Stephanie White?
Her explanation sounds clean on the surface, but the details underneath raise more questions than answers. Stephanie White is listed as a court coach for this camp. Not a full assistant yet, just present for this December training window.
It's Nate, it's Natalie Nakase, and Stephanie White.
So they're technically court coaches. I'm getting used to all the lingo also. And it's really, the assistants don't get picked or like officially chosen until much closer to the World Cup.
Oh, so they just are they just here for camp? I'm hoping Stephanie White is only here for camp. I hope she's not going to be around for the real thing. Keep talking, Sue. Keep talking.
So there's a lot of time, a lot of buildup. Some of it is, if you look at past coaching staffs, there's been a mix of WNBA and college. Obviously, this camp is in December. You're not going to get college coaches. That's likely not going to happen.
According to Sue Bird, the goal was to blend WNBA and college coaches. The problem was timing. Since this camp happens in December, college coaches were unavailable because of the season. So, they leaned into what she described as a newer wave of WNBA coaches. The issue is that Stephanie White is not new at all. She coached the Indiana Fever as a head coach back in 2015 and 2016, spent years as an assistant with the Connecticut Sun, and just returned to Indiana as head coach this past season. That Connecticut Sun connection is part of the UConn pipeline, and that is where people start shifting in their seats. Stephanie White just coached Caitlyn Clark for one season with the Fever. That season ended with Caitlyn dealing with multiple injuries, including a knee issue that kept her sidelined for weeks. By the end of the year, questions were already floating around about how her workload was handled by the Fever staff. Despite having the league's most dangerous playmaker, the offense often looked out of sync. Now, less than 2 months after that season wrapped, Stephanie White is suddenly part of Team USA, in a position where she can influence how Caitlyn Clark is used again in a new system.
So luckily we're able to tap into what is this newer crop with Nate and Natalie of WNBA coaches. Of course, Steph's been in the WNBA for a while, but none have had a ton of USA basketball experience. So it's wonderful to get them in. We had a coaches meeting today, and just kind of watching everybody come together and learn. You got to learn the FIBA rules. You got to learn, what it's about, but also being able to showcase themselves as assistants, obviously.
That overlap is hard to ignore. Listen closely to how Sue Bird frames Caitlyn's injury situation. The focus stays on how tough it was mentally to sit out and how impressive it was that she stayed locked in with the team. That part is fair, but what is missing is just as loud. There is no discussion of how the injuries happened. No mention of the heavy minutes she logged under Stephanie White. No breakdown of how her recovery timeline was managed. Caitlyn gets praised for pushing through it mentally, while the coaching context around those injuries quietly gets pushed to the side. The Indiana Fever ran Caitlyn Clark hard last season, giving her roughly 35 minutes per game. That was the second highest workload in the league for a rookie, and it came right after a college season where she played 39 games for Iowa. Add it up, and that is more than 80 high-level games in one calendar year, non-stop. Her body finally gave out in September, and now the same coach who oversaw that usage is helping shape her role for international play. That alone should make people pause, but here's where the concern really sharpens. Subbard made it clear that these court coach roles are not locked in. The official assistant coaching spots will not be finalized until much closer to the World Cup. That means what is happening right now in Durham is more than just a training camp. Stephanie White is effectively in tryout mode. This is an audition. She is there to show she deserves a permanent seat on this staff. And the way a coach proves value in a setting like this is simple. Show results, show control, show that you can plug players into a system and make it work fast. That means becoming essential to the head coach's vision. Kara Lawson is running the show. She played at Tennessee, not UConn, so she sits outside that specific pipeline. Still, she needs core coaches she can trust. She needs people who will carry out her system without friction. If Stephanie White wants one of those official